more breaking news. Anthony Richardson.
Big hour for us, Chris.
Anthony Richardson getting benched for Joe Flacco. Oh my gosh. I don't know how I guess I don't know how to parse this. The fantasy side of me understands that so far Flacco has been the better quarterback option for those wide receivers. We saw Josh Downs having better games with Joe Flacco under center versus Anthony Richardson. Michael Pittman being the guy that we expected him to be when we drafted him. I mean, we even saw some shots down the field to Alec Pierce, AD Mitchell, even though I think he dropped a couple of them. But it's just the offense was working as intended when Joe Flacco was under center. Anthony Richardson just wasn't it. Over 30% of Anthony Richardson's passes came on throws of 20 air yards or more. That was and he had the highest production of passing yardage that was just on deep balls versus any other type of pass than any other quarterback in the league. So it's just, I get it. You have that level of volatility to Anthony Richardson's game. I know I know he needs the reps. I know he's had only 13 starts at in college, and then he has maybe 6 or 7 to go to pair that with in the at the professional level. But I can understand if they need to sit him down, maybe work with him, maybe go through more of the fundamentals to get him from that point. I understand that person. Hopefully we see him back on the field at some point. But LaMarca, what are your thoughts from a fantasy standpoint, just with this news?
It's just the right thing for the Colts to do. You'd like to say that it's a bad thing if you drafted Richardson, but honestly, the fact that you're not going to be starting him anymore is probably a good thing, right?
Yeah.
QB3 in week 1. Since then, he has yet to crack the top 20 at the position. So it's been brutal for him. Meanwhile, Flacco in each of his 3 starts has been at least QB 18, including a QB4 finish in week 5. The pass catchers see a major bump. I think it helps the offense just in general in terms of being productive and scoring more points. And, just to give a quick shout out to the Betting Life show, which I do with Matthew Friedman on Mondays, he has Flacco as the clear better quarterback at this point in his QB ratings. It's the right move for a team that's trying to contend. And, I don't think this is the end of Richardson. We'll see him again at some point, but certainly he needs more experience and he needs a little bit more seasoning. And Flacco gives him a better chance to win right now.
I completely agree. And of course, we have a question from our own Lori about Anthony Richardson, how she should proceed. I mean, Richardson and Herbert, which is sounds like, that's easy decision right now, Lori, right? I mean, we've got the news that Richardson's not even playing right now. So it seems like Justin Herbert, with all the superlatives we talked about Herbert beforehand, more higher pass rate over expectation for the Chargers since coming out of their bye. We've seen Herbert hit those 300-yard passing games. Haven't yet to see that from Anthony Richardson. Things that slam dunk decision. I like easy questions like this. More easy questions like that from folks in the chat. I appreciate
Are
that.
you stashing Richardson if you own him? I personally think you can probably just cut him. And if you can get somebody like Nix or Stafford, or even I would take Jameis Winston over Richardson right now if he's available. Unfortunately, it would be one thing if the upside was there, but we haven't seen it consistently enough to justify stashing a roster spot on a guy who may not play again this season.
Yeah, and then even if he does play, which matchup would you feel comfortable about him starting? So let's say he's not going to play this week against the Vikings. Would have been a bad matchup anyway. The next week after that, they play against the Bills. Not a great one either. Then the Jets after that. So let's say it's a 3-game stretch without Richardson. Week 12, they play the Lions. Week 13, they play the Patriots. Then they go into their bye in week 14. Week 14 buys are horrific, by the way.
Worst.
Week 15, so let's say you want to start him in the playoffs against the Broncos.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. So no, there is no scenario where I would see myself wanting to stash Richardson at this point. I would say just let's give it to Flacco. Josh Downs pointing way up in terms of his value, moving forward. He's out targeted Michael Pittman in multiple games since coming back. I'm with you there. I'm just not even doing it. All right, let's get a couple more questions in, then we'll wrap things up for today. Again, appreciate y'all stopping by and checking out myself and Mr. LaMarca. But what we got. So again, another question from Tyler. Thanks, guys. London and Amon-Ra are starting wide receivers. Got Deontay Johnson-Diop as well, looking for upside and possible trade bait. Speaking of trade bait, we might see Deontay Johnson get traded at some point over the next week or so with all the news that's been going around. So appreciate the thanks, Tyler. Happy to answer any other questions you might have. All right, let's keep it on and keep it on. Like, what else we got here from the chat? May, AR, and Winston. So we can toss out one of those guys immediately. So really now it comes down to Jameis Winston or Drake May rest of the season. I lean Jameis, just given the pass catching weapons. But where are you at, like, between those two?
I lean towards May, but that's contingent on him being available this week, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if May is out, then, you obviously can't play him this week. You go towards Jameis. But I think that I've been more impressed with May than I was expecting. I think